concept of modernization has been strongly identified with capitalism. The world only knew one model of modernization: profit for the rich by exploiting the poor. This model of modernization is really just exploitation. As the Secretary of State Antony Blinken said, the ruling class is at the table, while the rest of the world is on the menu. The recent push by US lawmakers to ban Chinese products, from TikTok to EVs on grounds of national security, is an example of how this model of modernization, once championed by free market capitalism, is a self-serving fantasy created by the ruling class in order to justify exploitation of working people all around the world. In this era, where the long-standing hegemony of the US is declining, and in that decline, the US is threatening to take humanity down the path of waste and destruction, the People's Republic of China is providing an example for an alternative, people-centered path in socialist modernization that is crucial for building a future of peaceful coexistence and win-win cooperation. China's modernization approach has two goals. First, as a developing country that has embraced the socialist market economy, China has a vested interest in developing its productive forces. Second, as a socialist country guided by the Communist Party and the science of Marxism-Leninism, China has a responsibility to serve all of her people, not just the economically well-off, and to ensure that everyone is welcome at the table. No one is on the menu. The Communist Party, as the leader of China's socialist democracy, knows that a sustainable model of modernization must be one that is formed around the specific needs of each country, community, and family. Their party has stressed many times that it does not want to export the Chinese model of modernization, because every society's material and historical conditions are different. However, China welcomes everyone to come and learn from their successes, to investigate what works, what doesn't work, what might be applicable, and what might not. With this in mind, a delegation of many fraternal parties from all around the world, including our own Communist Party USA, arrived in China in 2023, eager to learn and eager to investigate the Chinese path to socialist modernization. As the Han Dynasty saying goes, better to see something once than to hear about it 100 times. During the delegation's visit, we witnessed China's socialist modernization firsthand, from ancient historical sites to futuristic modern infrastructure projects. In China, we were given a view of the future. Not only the future of China, but in a sense, of the whole world. Our delegation learned that Guangdong province is the highest GDP province in the country. As the first to experiment with reform and opening up, in many ways, modern Guangdong can be considered the cradle of China's socialist modernization and reform efforts. Our delegation attended a presentation in Guangdong in which it was discussed how Guangdong province has been at the forefront of China's historic reform and opening up strategy ever since 1982, when Donghu Village became the first in China to welcome foreign investment for a commercial residence project. It's worth recalling that historically, Western modernization has never been peaceful, exemplified by the imperialist occupation of Guangdong province itself, and has also created social instability in proportion to the rapidity of advancement. China, by contrast, has outstripped these models by developing peacefully and achieving rapid economic growth alongside sustained social stability and universally raising the standard of living for over 1.4 billion people. These developments are all thanks to the unity of the people led by the Communist Party. The development of reform and opening up and of socialism with Chinese characteristics will continue well into the future. Quote, "Reforming China will never stop," the presenter declared. "The open door will never close." While in Guangdong province, we visited many high-tech facilities that exemplified the province's leading efforts in modernization. We were shown that big companies are required to host cells of party members working within those companies, which help to hold the companies accountable. In particular, they showed us KingMed Diagnosis, a private company which is owned and run by the Guangdong Party Committee and specializes in medical testing technology. And of course, the party's work in Guangdong doesn't end there. Socialist modernization necessarily includes poverty alleviation. To that end, the delegation learned that for every household in the region, the party was tasked with solving at least one person's employment problem. In other words, a jobs guarantee for each and every family. We learned about the dramatic increase in life expectancy in Guangdong and across the country, thanks to the party's efforts going back to the founding of the People's Republic of China, alongside the development of free public education, social security, pensions, and advanced public transportation, at least one high-speed rail line in every city, guaranteed for everyone. With the majority of this development concentrated in the cities, the next stage of China's socialist modernization has been rural revitalization. To that end, we learned that income growth in rural communities outside of the cities has actually been increasing more quickly than the cities for over 10 years. Arriving in Guiyang, the capital of Guizhou province, the delegation met with the Guizhou Provincial Party School. There, the delegation was given direct insight into socialist governance in China. The word governance itself has a different meaning in the Chinese language than it does in English. For China, governance doesn't just refer to a political system, but also to economic and to social governance and self-governance. In 1995, the United Nations attached special significance to the governance crisis around the world. Governance was defined by the UN as the sum of many ways in which individuals, public institutions, and private institutions manage public affairs. From the Chinese perspective, the difference lies in their conception of grassroots governance. That is, in China, the emphasis of governance is on finding the most effective combination of autonomy, rule of law, and what they call rule of virtue. What does this look like in practice? Local government is tasked with carrying out broadly defined policy objectives established by the party, similar to our own party's approach of establishing a party-wide program, essentially an outline, which party clubs, districts, commissions, etc. apply creatively based on their own specific realities. The party insists that the government must always be held accountable for fulfilling its objectives. The question is, what works? The Communist Party of China insists that the masses need to play an active role in social governance. This gives rise to the approach of whole process people's democracy, meaning that the party commits itself to treating both the symptoms and the root causes of problems identified by the people in each community. A major highlight of the delegation's tour of Guangdong was the opportunity to visit the community of Jinyuan. Home to some 10,000 people, Jinyuan served as a model example of whole process people's democracy in action. First, the People's Committee of Jinyuan maintains a digital suggestion box for residents to anonymously report their problems, things needing fixed, or anything else they think the committee needs to hear about. After receiving a suggestion or a complaint, the committee will investigate the situation, and finally, the party creates a proposal to resolve the situation, which it submits to the whole community. If the people approve, it becomes policy. Lastly, I'll give you a quote from a lecture that we received in Guangdong. We must avoid dogmatism and treating Marxism as scripture, and we also must avoid narrow empiricism without underlying theory. We should identify what works and absorb it reasonably, never blindly copy. China's model, while inspiring, cannot be copy-pasted. In stark contrast with China, the United States is not just any developed country, but the country at the highest stage of capitalism, the imperial core. However, while the ruling class is reaping massive profits, the working class is increasingly being deprived of the benefits of human progress. The US has the highest infant mortality rate in the developed world, decreasing lifespans, high illiteracy, and a wealth gap that has reached historically unheard of levels. While the ruling class seems eager for a new Cold War, the working class is paying the price. The defining spirit of China's socialist modernization is not the Chinese characteristics themselves, but the process of finding those characteristics for a given society in the application of dialectical materialism. We must study our own conditions and needs, identify our primary contradictions, and find out the characteristics of our own society, our own working class. As our comrades in China suggested, the process of applying dialectical materialism will never stop. We must always learn from our material realities in order to answer the current contradictions and serve the current needs of our working class. We also saw a glimpse in China of what's possible in a socialist society, where the poor are lifted up and the weak are cared for, where the people's voices are heard not just every 2 or 4 years at the ballot box, but every day, where economic and technological development don't just make the rich richer, but raise the quality of life for everyone. All these are made possible by Marxism. This is what we as a Communist Party must strive for. Thank you very much.